Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, local leaders react to the possible move of the University of Houston-Victoria to the Texas A&M system. Plus, explosions rock the campus of a Texas university, forcing evacuations and canceling classes. And a massive fire lights up the night sky as more than 100 firefighters battled flames and smoke for hours.
Sunny conditions on the outside, breezy conditions as well. 90 degrees currently. Is this August or March? Tell you what, temperatures are quite hot. Also, we have fire danger still continuing for our region here. What days will have the best chance of that? Find out more in my forecast.
And the IRS could be facing major cuts. The Trump administration is pushing to shrink the agency's workforce by thousands. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Shawna Currie. A former Victoria ISD teacher accused of assaulting a special needs student receives probation and a fine. We first reported this story in November 2023. The Victoria County District Attorney's Office said it took into consideration the fact that 37-year-old Stephanie Overstreet is no longer in the teaching profession when coming to the agreement. Overstreet is ordered to pay a fine of $283 for each of the two cases. The Texas Education Agency shows Overstreet still has two valid teaching certificates, with a note that Overstreet is under review by the Investigations Division. Tonight, Victoria ISD is calling on the community to help shape the future of education in the district. Through a series of strategic planning town halls, VISD hopes to gather input from parents, students, teachers, and local organizations to guide its priorities through the school year. The meeting will take place at Shields Elementary School cafeteria tonight from 5:30 to 6:30. And this brings us to our viewer poll today. Do you plan to attend or have you attended any of the strategic planning town halls? Yes or no? We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And 95% of voters say they have not attended a town hall. Tonight is the last one, so if you are wanting to attend, keep that in mind. And continue voting, and we'll have the latest numbers on 25 News Now at 6. Local business owners say the possibility of the University of Houston-Victoria becoming part of the Texas A&M University system would be a benefit to our area. District 18 State Senator Lois Kolkhorst filed SB 2361 proposing the transfer. If approved, the Texas A&M system would have 12 colleges around the state. If the university is integrated into the Texas A&M system, there could be more course offerings such as medicine, engineering, and land management.
I believe Texas A&M could be a huge economic driver, which we want our universities to be.
While Burge is excited the bill is filed, it still has to pass the legislature and get approval from the Texas A&M Board of Regents. Former State Representative Jeannie Morrison filed a similar bill in 2011. That bill did not pass. In a statement, Victoria Mayor Dwayne Crocker said in part this transfer will not only be an investment in higher education, but also a commitment to the future of our city. You can read his entire statement, as well as a statement from Victoria County Judge Ben Zeller on our website, crossroadstoday.com. Volunteer fire departments across Texas are getting a big boost. The Texas A&M Forest Service awarded approximately $2.1 million in grants during its latest funding meeting, helping rural fire crews get the equipment and training they need to protect their communities. These grants come through the Rural Volunteer Fire Department Assistance Program, which was created by the Texas Legislature in 2001 to support volunteer departments that often operate on tight budgets. 7 Crossroads area departments received $25,000 grants, and the Port Lavaca Volunteer Fire Department received a $10,000 grant. Well, we are very much appreciating our firefighters right now with all of these dry conditions outside. Let's go over to Trey Mining, who's in for Mac tonight, and he has a look at our forecast. Trey.
Exactly. Very dry conditions. Take out these humidity levels. Dry line pretty much over our region right now along 59. 14% humidity in Cuero, 8% in Hallettsville, and 13% in Current City. Of course, a little more humid along the immediate coast. A very dry condition. This is going to persist for the time being. How long will that be? Any rain in our forecast? We're trying to find some somewhere. We'll take a look at that full 7 day a little bit later on this half hour. Shawna?
Well, millions of Americans right now bracing for torrential storms as a new system hits nearly all corners of the country. A flood threat right now in Southern California in fire-torn regions is forcing people to evacuate once again. And nearly a dozen states now facing fire danger, and the Midwest bracing for possible tornadoes. ABC's Zoreen Shaw has more.
In Los Angeles County today, a rare weather event. A tornado.
We have 5 or 6 trees down. We have tarps spread out. Carports that have a vinyl top have been ripped off. We don't see damage to homes, but we see wires down.
It was only an EF0, the lowest level tornado, but it downed trees and utility poles in the city of Pico Rivera.
This is based upon the survey of the damage that we had seen extend over a 1 mile path length with a width of approximately 80 yards.
In other parts of Southern California, heavy rains triggered water rescues. First responders in San Juan Capistrano rescuing a driver whose vehicle had been washed into a rushing creek. And there were mudslides in Orange County. Our Los Angeles station KBC's Jessica DeNova on the scene.
What's going on here, you can see behind me, the water levels rose because of the heavy rain, and you can see that tree right there. If that is submerged underwater and you are walking or even driving across it, you can't see it if it's submerged underwater.
In the burn-scarred areas of Altadena and Pacific Palisades, an even greater fear of mudslides, where the scorched soil just cannot absorb the rain. ABC's Trevor Alt near Altadena this morning.
You see some of the preps here, homes that have boards and sandbags laid in front, and all of this water and mud that's rushing down this street.
Along Pacific Coast Highway, 100 homeowners told to evacuate. ABC's Alex Stone is there.
And they had sandbags, they put up tarps on hillsides and whatnot.
Blizzard conditions in the San Bernardino Mountains, several inches of snow coming down. The powerful cross-country storm that battered Southern California moving into the Midwest and Northeast this weekend. And ahead of it, record heat, up to 35 degrees above normal. Zoreen Shaw, ABC News Los Angeles.
A Connecticut police chief is providing new details about a case that he calls the worst treatment in humanity that he has seen in decades of law enforcement. Police arrested 56-year-old Kimberly Sullivan on Wednesday. She's accused of holding her stepson captive for 20 years. Investigators say the now 32-year-old victim was found after he set his house on fire in an attempt to be rescued. According to police, the only time the State Department of Children and Families were called to the house was back in 2005, but they say at the time there was no cause for any alarm and no evidence that the victim was living anything other than a normal childhood. Police say the victim weighs only 68 pounds now and has a lot of healing to do.
33 years of law enforcement, this is the worst treatment of humanity that I've ever witnessed, right? I mean, honestly, when we first started talking about it, we really couldn't believe it. It took a lot of convincing amongst ourselves to just really accept what was going on, and it's really hard to talk about still. I mean, it's shuddering to think that someone would treat any person, let alone a family member or someone that was entrusted as a guardian or a parental figure in this way.
Bond for Sullivan was set at $300,000 and her next court date is March 26th. She has been charged with assault in the first degree, kidnapping in the second degree, unlawful restraint in the first degree, cruelty to persons, and reckless endangerment in the first degree. Manhole explosions at Texas Tech University caused the school to evacuate several buildings and cancel the remainder of this week's classes. The blasts on Wednesday sent plumes of fire and smoke across parts of the campus in Lubbock. Power outages were also reported across the school. At some point, officials said a gas odor could be detected in the area. Students were eventually allowed to re-enter residence buildings, but staffers were advised to not return to their offices. The school was scheduled to start its spring break on Monday, but this incident resulted in an earlier than expected dismissal. Firefighters battle a 3-alarm blaze at an office building in Houston. Aerials of the scene show heavy smoke and flames lighting up the night sky. The building is listed as the address for Tran Law Group and Metro City Bank. Fire officials say they were called around 5:30 Wednesday about a fire in an electrical panel near a stairwell in the building. More than 100 firefighters battled the flames. Shifting winds and water supply challenged firefighters. There are no reports of any injuries. A Texas House bill would reduce legal protections for renters and accelerate evictions, tenants advocates have told lawmakers. Landlord groups say the bill is needed to clamp down on squatters and curtail laws they say can slow evictions. To read this full Texas Tribune article, visit crossroadstoday.com. The Trump administration is pushing to shrink the IRS workforce by nearly 20%. A source says the proposal discussed in a meeting today has yet to be made public. So far, around 6,700 probationary employees have been let go, and another 4,700 took voluntary buyouts. Now, nearly 6,800 more cuts could come by May 15th. Critics warn these layoffs could impact the IRS's ability to collect revenue, which funds nearly all federal government operations. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell. Stay with us straight ahead on 25 News now at 5. Could COVID still affect you long after recovery? Experts say new data reveals surprising insights about long COVID and who's most at risk. Plus, the moon is about to put on a show how a total lunar eclipse will actually light up the night sky. More than 60,000 bottles of sparkling water have been recalled. There's a risk that the Gerolsteiner water bottles could crack and potentially cut you. So the bottles were sold at Trader Joe's stores in 12 states from December 2024 through January 2025. You can return the bottles to the store where you purchased them for a refund. This week marked 5 years since the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. While health officials say most people now appear to recover fully from a COVID infection, some go on to develop symptoms long after the initial infection. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither has more on what we've learned about long COVID over the years.
It's characterized by symptoms that typically develop within 3 months after a COVID-19 infection and may last years. The World Health Organization says the chance of developing long COVID appears to be lower now than at the pandemic's peak, but with the virus still spreading, there's still risk.
Some people are still struggling with it today. About 30% of adults who had COVID have these persistent symptoms. That's what the data shows.
Common symptoms of long COVID include fatigue, breathlessness, muscle or joint pain, and sleep issues.
It does seem to be most correlated with how severe your infection was initially and your overall risk factors at the time of infection. So, for example, your age or your immune function.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta says for many people, long COVID can worsen conditions like lung disease, and up to 40% of those with long COVID appear to have persistent breathing problems, likely due to scarring or thickening of lung tissue from the initial COVID-19 infection.
Many people do seem to eventually recover, or at least improve. And while it may sound simple, doing directed breathing exercises, that can go a long way. And of course, doing everything you can to prevent another infection.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Gupta says staying up to date on both COVID and flu vaccinations can help protect against future infections. He says it's especially important for those over the age of 65 and those who are immunocompromised, as those groups are at greater risk of getting severely sick. A new study finds that women nearing menopause who experience frequent heavy bleeding are more likely to feel exhausted. About a third of women in premenopause or perimenopause report heavy or prolonged bleeding. Those with 3 or more episodes in 6 months were 62% more likely to feel tired and 44% more likely to feel worn out. Researchers suspect iron deficiency from blood loss could be to blame, though they did not measure iron levels to confirm the link. Well, make sure to look up at the night sky tonight because a total lunar eclipse is on the horizon. Maribel Gonzalez is at the Griffith Observatory in Los Angeles to tell us what makes this phenomenon so unique and what you can expect to see.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's a total lunar eclipse, a rare event when the moon passes within the darkest part of Earth's shadow.
It doesn't happen that often because the moon actually orbits slightly above and below the Earth's shadow most of the time. But every couple of years, it punches through that shadow.
And that time is here. Thursday night, millions of people across the country will be able to witness this moon marvel beginning just before midnight Eastern Daylight Time, according to NASA.
It's very gradual, and the totality, the most impressive part, won't happen until about 11:26 p.m. Pacific time. The big thing with a lunar eclipse is because it's slow, I usually find it helpful to check in on it a couple times at the night.
As the moon is completely covered in Earth's shadow, it will appear to change color. This NASA data visualization predicts the moon will look like this.
The appearance of a total lunar eclipse is very much dependent on the conditions in the Earth's atmosphere. You're getting the light from all of the world's sunrises and sunsets bending by the Earth's atmosphere onto the face of the moon when it's in totality. And that's why it has this coppery red or so-called blood color instead of being just completely black.
And unlike solar eclipses, we will be able to see this phenomenon with the naked eye. No special glasses needed.
You can even bring out your binoculars and look right at the red moon if you'd like.
I'm Maribel Gonzalez reporting.
You can check that eclipse here in the Crossroads. What's in for the Victoria area? Staying up tonight to look at it. It begins at 10:57 p.m. and it'll be a total covered eclipse by 11:58 a.m. and begins to end by 5 a.m. So nice viewing conditions overall tonight. Check it out. Very rare event. It's something you need to check out if you can. What about the forecast here? More dry weather headed our way? Afraid so. We'll take a look at that forecast coming up. Sunshine, very dry conditions still continue for the Crossroads region. Now this is a red flag warning and a fire weather watch that goes into effect tomorrow afternoon, waiting for a front to come through and increase our wind flow from the west and northwest. And already have dry, low humidity is in place with a dry line over the region. But with those extra winds coming in, more dry air following the front, we have the fire weather watch in effect for tomorrow. Keep that in mind. Afternoon for Friday and Saturday afternoons for much of the Crossroads region. All the counties you see here in the yellow here, including Victoria County, that's the fire weather watch. Red flag warnings from the areas west of Karnes City toward Beeville and points west from there. So no outside burning, please. It get out of control very quickly. So please wait for a better time for that. And we have dry conditions, of course, in our region here. High clouds out west. Unfortunately, no rain clouds headed our way, keeping it on the dry side for the time being, and adding to that fire danger that we're continuing to experience. Texas temperatures now, 90 degrees here in Victoria. Feels more like the summertime than March around here, and 90s up there in Austin. And a little bit cooler behind the front up there in Lubbock and Amarillo, weather in the 70s and probably staying that way for your day tomorrow. And pretty much the same to the north, 80s or so from Dallas-Fort Worth down to Austin, San Antonio area. While we're pretty much near 90 degrees everywhere you go, except along the immediate coast from the benefit of the sea breeze, from Port Lavaca to Seadrift. That's why they're in the 80s and a few upper 70s around there. Southerly winds off the Gulf, trying to bring that back to humidity, but not having much success doing so. When the front coming through, the dry line as well. Turn those winds around to the north and northeast, going northwest actually, bringing that low humidity in place. Winds begin to settle down a little bit for your day on Saturday, but still rather gusty in the afternoons. Future temperatures, of course, we're near 90 degrees currently and falling into the 70s and 60s overnight. A little bit cool feel to the morning time, and then another hot day again for your day tomorrow. The high temperatures well into the 80s to near 90 degrees. We're topping that by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So definitely another hot day. But the front will bring dry air, as you know, and give us a little bit of cooling behind it once we get here on Friday in the second half of the day. A little bit of fog possible tomorrow morning early, and so keep that in mind. Nothing too widespread or too extremely dense, but there comes to be some early as you're driving around. Be mindful of that and be careful out there. There's a dry line. Of course, the dry line is not really a front technically. It separates the higher humidity to the south and much drier conditions to the west of the dry line here. And here's the front out west. It'll move through, giving rain to Southern California, but not be doing that for our region here because the atmosphere is too dry and keeping it that way for the time being. Well, some clouds in the morning time. Sunny skies for your day tomorrow. High temperatures near 90 degrees. We're topping that by 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Partly cloudy skies, we'll call it. Port Lavaca as well, morning cloud cover by about 12 noon or so. Sunshine in the afternoon. High temperatures probably in the 80s with the sea breeze off of the bay. And Victoria as well. Cloudy skies early in the morning time, sunny skies about the rest of the day. It looks good for your Friday, but although it looks good, doesn't mean it's good weather because you don't want to do any outdoor burning because it's very volatile situations out there with dry air continuing to move on through. Trying to find some rainfall, but not really having any success doing that, unfortunately. Alert day for the red flag warnings and the fire weather watch coming up for your day Friday and Saturday in the afternoons especially. Keeping it on the dry side for the time being, the rest of the forecast period. After 90s tomorrow, in the low to mid 80s for the weekend, so feeling a little bit better overall. Low temperatures 40s, 50s, and 60s throughout the entire forecast period. Be careful out there, no burning of course, and make it a great Friday coming up and a great weekend. Take a look at this right here. This is the QR code. What you need to do is get your smartphone, scan the code you see there on your screen. That'll take you to a web page. You can download our app, News, Weather, and Sports at your fingertips. Very easy, convenient, free of charge to have on your phone. Be connected with us. Everything that's going on in the crossroads. Shawna?
Still to come on 25 News Now at 5. The price of your favorite European drinks could skyrocket after a new tariff threat from President Trump. Stocks slid today as President Trump threatened new tariffs on the European Union. Markets dipped to their lowest level of the day after Trump's remarks. Here's a closer look at those numbers. The Dow lost 537 points, the S&P 500 lost 78 points, the Nasdaq lost 345 points, and oil is down 97 cents to $66.74 per barrel. Many low-income households in the U.S. are having a harder time staying afloat, and some are living without basic necessities. That's according to officials at Dollar General, the retailer that's considered a bellwether on shopping habits. During an earnings call today, Dollar General's CEO said inflation is causing many low and middle income consumers to buy less. The company also said the Trump administration's tariffs on imports could lead to increased prices, adding more strain on its customers. Other companies are also seeing a drop in sales, including Delta Airlines, which cut its profit outlook this week. Kohl's also announced it expects sales could fall up to 6% in 2025. Well, fewer Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week. The Labor Department reports an estimated 220,000 initial claims were made last week. That's down 2,000 from the week before. The decline indicates continued resilience in the U.S. labor market. Meanwhile, a higher than normal stream of federal workers is landing on the unemployment rolls as the Trump administration slashes the federal workforce. More than 1,500 federal employees filed claims during the week ending March 1st. Just under 400 federal employees filed during the same period last year. The global trade war could be escalating again. Today, President Donald Trump threatened to put a massive 200% tariff on European alcohol. It's in response to the European Union's retaliation against Trump's steel and aluminum tariffs. In a social media post, Trump said the new tariff will go into effect unless the EU rescinds its 50% tariff imposed Wednesday on U.S. spirits. America's spirits industry said it was bracing for pain from the retaliatory tariffs. Gas prices are down slightly since January amid fears of a possible recession. According to AAA, the national average price for a gallon of regular gas stands at $3.08. Prices at the pump have been dropping consistently since July, and oil prices have dropped 11% since January. While even a small drop in gas prices is good news, it comes amid concerns about a possible recession. The actual start of a recession could likely send gasoline prices down quickly and sharply. Well, stay with us. Coming up next, a pizza delivery takes an unexpected turn with an uninvited 8-foot customer waiting in the driveway. Why police had to step in.
Tonight, President Trump's trade war. As the stock market struggles, the EU retaliates. Plus, as the Department of Education is gutted, which communities will be most impacted by the cuts? World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
A Florida pizza delivery driver pulled up to a house to find an 8-foot alligator in the customer's driveway. A Bradenton, Florida police officer responded to a call about the gator on Sunday. While he was in the neighborhood, the delivery driver arrived and the officer warned her what was going on. She was too scared to make the delivery, so she asked the officer to do it. The police officer got the pizza to the customer, who was just as surprised to see the alligator underneath her car. Florida wildlife trappers relocated the gator away from the neighborhood. So I'm sure they're used to seeing alligators, just not right in their driveway.
Exactly, yes. That gator had the opportunity to chomp down some pizza.
Yes. All right, well, we'll have a good opportunity tonight to see the lunar eclipse, some clear skies.
Looking good for that. So if you're up there, get some out and get some good pictures if you can, because the weather conditions around here should be ideal for that, for the viewing, but not ideal for moisture. We sure need it. We have alert days for Friday and Saturday in the afternoons because of the dry conditions. We have fire weather watches and also red flag warnings for the western parts of the Crossroads region for both the time periods. Sunny skies, dry conditions for the rest of the time period. Another 90-degree day for your day tomorrow. 80s for the rest of the time period through the weekend. So no outdoor burning, please.
Yeah, we're not in a burn ban, but it's still extremely dry.
Very volatile, yes.
Yeah, all right. And I will have to say, though, you know, I'm not ready for the 90s, but it didn't feel like summer either outside today. It still felt pretty nice.
Yeah, with that low humidity. That's the only good thing about it.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here at 6.